they're building small electric engines for all the UAVs and drones and such, and even a small reciprocal engine that they've changed to work for those. And I think it's gonna take over.
I just realized this right now when we're talking. Basically, the electric planes that we're imagining are basically just the drones that we currently have right now, just bigger in size.
Just scale them up. There are a couple of companies that have full size, I mean, private airplanes that are electric and flying.
Welcome to the New World Podcast, where we delve into the ever changing and accelerating pace of global change and its impact on our lives. I'm your host, John Paul Flores, broadcasting live from the New World Studio. Today, we're diving into the world of AI and automation. As an enthusiast and expert in lead generation, I will guide you through understanding and leveraging these technologies for your business and for your personal use. And don't forget, AI and automation might be unstoppable forces, but that doesn't mean you are powerless. Tune in to learn how to make them work for you and not the other way around. But first, let's meet our guest. Welcome to the New World Podcast, where we navigate the changing world around us. I'm your host, Jampa Flores, specializing in lead generation and AI automation, here to help you understand how our world is changing and what it means for you. In this episode, we sit down with Tim Blaisdell, the accomplished CEO of PITH Products, to explore his strategic vision for corporate growth and sustainability. With a rich background in strategic management and business growth, Tim shares his insights on blending small business creativity with large scale efficiency. Learn how Tim's leadership is driving revenue, enhancing efficiencies, and fostering strategic partnerships in a rapidly evolving business landscape. Tim, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Before we begin on the in depth questions, because I do have some, can you give us a quick intro on who Tim is? What's your experiences, your expertise, and what keeps you busy these days?
Sure, sure. I've been in the aerospace or around the aerospace business for most of my career, 25-year plus. Always been more of the business generation, revenue type guy, business development, new partnerships. What can we do to drive growth? This is my first CEO job. I've been chief strategy officer. I've been chief operating officer, but this is the first time at the top of the pyramid. So it's fun to put it all together. Pith is a great small company. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But it's for me, it's always fun to put the strategy behind where our business goes, and that's where I really like to put most of my time and make those strategies and lay out short and long term goals and plans and try to execute them.
And PITH Solutions is more of a storage solutions, right?
So Pith Products, we make lean manufacturing
Yeah.
products. So primarily assembly kit carts, point of use stations, anything that makes a lean manufacturing line more efficient, safer. Have the right parts and the right tools in the right places at the right time. So yeah, it's a lot of fun and it can apply in almost any industry. Aerospace is where it's taken off, and that's what the bulk of our business is. But we're looking forward to expanding and getting into other industries too.
It's amazing. And when you took over as the role of CEO of PITH Products, what was your first initial vision on what you want this company to be?
Well, it's very funny because it's not what I expected. It's not what they told me, but it's still a lot of fun. The day I took over, July 1 of last year, the aerospace world with two of our largest customers sort of crumbled. One of them had a large engine problem, and the other lost two major programs. So right off the bat, our major customers took a hit, and the bulk of our top 30 customers were tier one and tier twos of those guys. So right off the bat, we had to pivot and look at other options, and they sort of brought me in to grow anyway. Well, not sort of, they did. They brought me in to scale the company, um, and look at other options and how to grow. So, we had to hit the ground running. Luckily, we have a lot of good people here, and we still had a lot of contacts around that we brought in new customers. And as a matter of fact, this third quarter of 2024, the bulk of our business will be new customers. So, to do that in a year, that's pretty impressive, and it helped us tremendously. It could have been really tough, but we got new customers, mostly in the aerospace world, and we're doing with one customer, we're doing over 500,000 in carts in their first order. So, it worked well.
So, was your initial decision to join PITH Products? Was it motivated by the fact that most of their customers are only also from the aerospace industry where you're from?
Yeah, yeah, I know that industry. I know the OEMs. Obviously, I worked at two of them, um, and I know the tier ones. But I also know that the good part about aerospace is they're very focused, engineering driven companies that anything that makes sense and improves their efficiencies and their safeties and their throughput. It's not a sale, it's just a help, it's a partnership. So, and that's what I like.
And in your LinkedIn page, you've emphasized improving EBITDA and driving revenue through process improvements. Can you share specific strategies and initiatives that you've tried with PITH products that actually made it improve?
Yeah, actually, with a new customer, we're doing a business case right now. Luckily, their material manager came from a company that Pith had done a lot of business with, and as soon as he got to this aerospace company, he knew that his return on investment would be quick. He needed our equipment, our carts, our storage equipment, our lean manufacturing solutions, because he knew he could get more throughput. He could save parts. He quoted right off the bat that he had $100,000 material handling problem. And what he told us was parts are just being put next to each other. So metal on metal is always a bad thing. So they chip, they scratch. So we designed some different kind of holders and boxes for them. So they'd go down the line, and they were foamed. So they would never touch each other. And right off the bat, his rotable pool and his buying spares and all of that went down, but his throughput went up too. So at the end of the year, we're going to go through and actually do a business case with him. So that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that.
That's amazing. And personally, how do you approach product innovation with PITH products, especially because you were not initially from PITH products and you just took over? And how do
Yeah.
you handle the innovation on that part?
I love innovation. I've always been at sort of the bleeding edge of technology in the last couple of companies, whether it was 3D manufacturing, whether it was innovative coatings removal and stuff of that nature. So I love innovation, and innovation. It's a great word, but you don't have to make leaps and bounds every time you improve something. I'm very much a continuous improvement guy. So, even small improvements are a good thing in the long run. So, it's funny, you come to a company like Pith, and we, as I said, we make the carts and tool management, boxes, carriers. And so you're saying innovation. Well, there is innovation. We're trying to do things quicker, with better products. We just brought on a new product called Ecore board, which is a laminated cardboard, but it's thick, so it'll replace wood. It's half the weight, so that's also shipping cost saved. So it's interesting. We have a proprietary aero coating that we sprayed it with, and now it's even weather resistant. So it's interesting. So when you say innovation, it doesn't have to be groundbreaking, you know barrier jumping. It's just, continuous improvement, keep getting better, keep getting better. And so that's what we're doing. So we're doing that in our processes, we're doing that in our products, and that'll drive back to the EBITDA that you talked about a minute ago.
Do you think most people don't realize that most innovations are just small improvements done over time leads to massive results?
Yeah, no, and that's why I said that. A lot of people, you hear innovation, and it's got to be this change the world. No, it doesn't. It's just got to be better, right? And you'll see gains over time. Uh,
Yeah,
I don't ever try to do business with somebody once. Everything to me, that's a failure. You do all that work to get one piece of business and it goes away. To me, it's a long term relationship. So I'm very much into that steady improvement, because if it's a long term relationship and you're improving, it's good for everybody.
absolutely, yes. And the manufacturing of aerospace in the aerospace sector is highly competitive. What are the key challenges that you face in this industry, especially when you first took over?
Yeah. So I mean, luckily it's we're in a niche market, and that's why I've tried to not rebrand us but steer us a little bit more. When people think of pith, I want them to think of these assembly kit carts and the point of use stations, and the large equipment, I'll call it, as opposed to a box that's holding a part. A lot of people do that. A lot of people make crates. Not a lot of people do it all, and we do it all. So I'm excited about you know talking to new customers and showing them the breadth of our capabilities. And we can really help just about anybody out there. If you're making something, then you're going to have some type of production line. So it's exciting because it is a relationship, and you try to help someone, and they see that. And it's not a sales. You go in and you throw a pitch, and you get rejected or this or that. It's a relationship, and we try to help people.
Absolutely, and especially because most of the time you're gonna be working with them for years and years to come, because you are in the
Hopefully,
manufacturing business.
yes. Hopefully,
And you've mentioned that you are in a niche business. Can you tell us how important that is and how that could potentially help you?
yeah. I mean, so we like to develop those relationships, as I said, and we have good products. So we've adopted more innovation. We've adopted new products. We've adopted new processes. We've switched around our shop. We've switched around our office, believe it or not, to get more efficiencies. So we just look at anything that can make us better, and do obviously a quick cost analysis. But if it's gonna just keep getting better, and save time or money over a long period of time, then we're in. And that's what we do. And that's one of our mantras.
Also, I noticed that you've been in multiple companies so far. Are those companies in the aerospace industry mostly in the manufacturing side of things?
But yes, yes. So, I mean, Cumberland Additive was in the 3D additive world, 3D manufacturing. Great company, very good people. Don Higton is very well respected around multiple industries, aerospace, materials. Um, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of building strategy, and taking a small company and where you want it to go, which is what I like. Um, but yeah, the aerospace world is a leader on many forefronts, and I like that. I like to learn. I like to apply, lessons learned. So yeah, aerospace is treated me well for 25 years.
And I don't think people realize that most of the innovations that we use are from the innovations we got from the aerospace industry because they advance so fast.
Right. And I mean, think of what a jet engine is, or an Airbus or Boeing fuselage. I mean, the technology that's in aerospace is always, very much at the edge. And it's around the world. When I was a Pratt Whitney employee, and doing business around the world, there was facilities in the Far East that were unbelievable, and they were partners. And there's a lot of smart people around the world, and aerospace just keeps getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and pushing boundaries more and more and more. It trickles down into other industries.
Do you think there's gonna be a time where the planes that we use will most likely be fully electric as well?
I do. I mean, it's hard not to. It's just changing, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple of small companies around us here in the middle of Connecticut. They're building small electric engines for all the UAVs and drones and such, and even a small reciprocal engine that they've changed to work for those. So I think a normal combustion engine is on its way out, and it's I think how it's going to be. I mean, there's electric airplanes being made and flown, uh, and all kinds of electric other besides cars. I mean,
I just realized this right now when we're talking. Basically, the electric planes that we're imagining are basically just the drones that we currently have right now, just bigger in size.
just scale them up. There are a couple of companies that have full size. I mean, private airplanes that are electric and flying.
Really?
Hmm.
Huh, I gotta look that up. And for you personally, how do you balance sustainable practices with, staying basically innovative and still getting growth in your company?
Yeah, just sustainability. I mean, we only have one Earth, right? So we're trying to do the best we can. And in my world, it's great because we're very much wood, foam, cardboard, things of that nature are very easily recycled. But we do have a plastics program for our HDPE and some of our other foam. And it's you do. I think everybody has to. I think it doesn't matter what business you are, and it's sort of easy for us. As I said, we have bins full of that, and it goes and gets recycled. But somebody who's got petroleum and byproducts and stuff like that, it's a little harder, but it's still got to be barreled up and taken care of the right way.
And can you tell me how your products that PITH Products manufacture actually helps your clients?
Sure, and that's going back to that, making that manufacturing line better. The cart that I talked about before, the $500,000 order, is two lines. I think they have five different lines in that facility. Uh, so just say they're spending $250,000 for the two different lines that we're working on. Those carts are going to pay for themselves. I bet you in a year, 18 months at the most, their return on investment, because they're going to have the right parts in the right place, at the right time. Uh, the throughput is going to increase. We've gone into aerospace facilities, and you always think of aerospace as the forefront. We're talking about, I went into a facility 30 miles from here, and you had to walk through aisles because there was just so much stuff. And these guys are a $35 million shop, so they have a bunch of throughput, and that's all that they know. But if we can go in there and organize them the right way, they have 50 million in throughput. So when you spend some money, you make some money when you do it in the right way. And a lot of our customers are seeing that, and as we said, aerospace sort of leads the charge. But the return on investment, that's a very simple equation, and you can show them when they're pushing things through. And by the way, how about employee engagement? How about employee retention? The engineer or the technician now has everything right next to him. He pulls out a drawer and he pulls out the part, as opposed to, oh man, it's over there on that table, I think. It helps in a lot of different areas.
And in your lifetime, you've probably handled hundreds, if not thousands, of employees. What's
Mm.
your approach in building leading teams, and what quality do you look for a team member that will be good for your team?
I usually live by a couple of theories here. First of all, I hire character. I hire character. You train skills. As long as I'm not looking for a high level technician that obviously has to have some of those skills coming in. I look at people that can look you in the face and talk to you and tell you they want to be there every day and they want to make things better. I'll take a bunch of them and train them. I have no problems with that. And then the other thing is you got to put people in the right places. Um, just because you like doing something doesn't really mean you're good at it, number one, but it also doesn't mean that that's where you're most productive for the company either. So that's a give and take because you obviously have to make them happy, but you got to have people in the right places. And even here we have 20 people and we moved three or four of them around within the first couple of months, and things are great. So gotta have good people, and you gotta have them in the right places.
And you mentioned that character is most of the time more important than skills they know. Can you tell us why that's the case?
To me, that just that gets you in the door. That makes you want to come back. That gives you room to grow. If you don't have the basic, and I say characteristics, but I mean uh, converse, be able to write, be able to talk with people on the phone, be able to understand what people are saying, and be able to either reiterate that or pass along um, real goals and tasks, then it's really hard. And not everybody's great at that, and I get that, and it's not the most important thing, but to be able to communicate is huge. And there's so many ways to train today that training is not that hard. Might take a little while, but you want those people that just want to learn, want to do well. I guess is an easy way to say it. Succeed. So
Where do you see PITH Products heading in the next 5 to 10 years? What's your hope for it?
let's do 10 years because that's a fun. Uh, 10 years, I see us tenfold what we are today, and it's not just going to be this facility. I have a model that I will go and find small manufacturing folks, and I will turn them into piths in certain areas. So I see growth by acquisition, satellites, if you will. This facility is 25,000 square feet, and we're almost maxed out now. Another shift, okay, but that's it. I would rather go to different, and they'll most likely be aerospace hubs, whether it's a Long Beach or a Dallas Fort Worth or a Huntsville, Alabama, or a Seattle, and set up pit satellites there. A lot of the products we do are very, I would call regional. That's when you make the boxes or you foam the Pelican cases to hold the parts, and you do that locally because you're not going to ship that around the country or world. But I tell you what, our carts and our point of use stations, we put on 18 wheelers full and we send them wherever. So I don't mind that part. But you get a good base business with the other part of it, and they're all divisions or sister companies of the aerospace folks that we're already customers of, or they're customers of ours. We're suppliers of. So it's an easy transition, and that's where we go in 10 years.
That's amazing. And I want to ask, in your opinion, how important is company culture for a team?
It's big. It's big. I've been at big companies, the Fortune 40s. I've been at the small companies, and it's a great question. And I'm hesitating a little bit because I didn't know how big culture was until my last two companies. And it's very big. You have to have people that have the same vision, not necessarily the same vision. They have to have the same goals, I guess, as you. Are you here to sustain where you are? Are you here to grow? Are you here to make this safety number one? Quality is obviously always number one, two, and one A. And you have to have safety and quality, period. So I sort of take them off the table. But then, do you grow? Do you reorg? Do you have to have people that want to do some of the same thing you do. You don't want them to have the same ideas because then you're just have a bunch of you, and that's no good. I like people pushing back, but it's interesting and it's a lot of fun.
And what's your take on work-life balance? Because I've been seeing some people on LinkedIn, on many different social medias, fighting over whether it's good or it's bad. What's your take on it?
Oh, there's only one side of it for me here. It's a work life balance. You better have one. I left one of those big companies because I'd be in there for 9 hours a day. You get there at 6:30 in the morning. You've already got 80 emails. You've got 8 hours of meetings, and then you by the time you leave, you've got another 150 emails to respond to, and it's just there's zero balance. You just work, and I've got a great family. We have a lot of fun. I love to golf. I love to cook. I want to do things when I'm not here, and at my age, I can sort of I'm available 24/7, and that's what happens with cell phones and laptops today. But I sort of shut down for 3 4 hours 5 hours a day and hang out with my family and do things. So work life balance to me is incredible. I mean, you have to have it or else you're not going to be around very long.
So, in your opinion, you like where you are right now because you have more freedom in terms of when you are working in the big companies.
Yeah, I think I am much more the small company guy. And for a couple of reasons though, not just because the big companies are there's just so much bureaucracy, and I'm not a big bureaucracy guy, but small companies you wear a lot of hats. Um, yeah, I'm the CEO, so I have a lot of hats anyway. But when I was a VP at this company or a COO of that company, you still wore a lot of hats, and I like that because it changes things. It gives you something different. You learn something, you do something different. So all of that.
So basically, when you were in these big companies, you're basically just one part of a big machine that is very constrained on what you can do.
Yes and no. I loved being there,
Yeah,
but it just there's too many layers, and it was hard to get things done.
too much politics.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, it's not horrible. It's
Yeah.
not what I like. I
Is there
like
some elements of it that you still miss?
Um, yeah, I mean, when you're at a multi-billion-dollar company, you're not worried about your $20,000 budget, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, when you're at a $5 million company, every budget counts, every dollar counts. So that's a different pressure.
yeah,
But I also like to bring two of my management folks in here, and we talk
yeah.
about something, we make a decision, and it's done. Let's go on to the next thing. In the Fortune 40, okay, there's 4 meetings long, and you still don't have a decision. So yeah, I like the spontaneity and the quickness of making decisions. But the financial stability of those large guys was a nice plus too.
And what keeps you motivated to actually still work and keeps innovating and make PITH products grow bigger and bigger?
Uh, Probably my competitiveness. I hate to lose. I still do. It doesn't matter. I don't care what it is. If we're playing cards, and I've toned it down a lot, so I'm much better than I used to be. But to me, succeeding. I love to succeed, and I love making that path and seeing those steps, and having people grow around you and having them succeed, and then them go off and do things. That to me, that's what I like, and that's what makes it fun, and that's why you come back every day and you look for the next challenge and keep going.
And what's one of the biggest challenge that you had to overcome over your career?
I'm probably not trying to do everything myself. I know what I can do, and I didn't rely on others until I got probably part way up that ladder and realized that first of all you can't do everything yourself. Secondly, there's other people that are better at things than I am, and so you start to mix and mold and always surround yourself with good people. just you delegate and you grow as a group.
Is delegating, on your opinion, one of the biggest key that you need to learn to actually grow as a company?
It is for me. It was hard, very hard for me to do that, but there's just so many hours, and that was like I said, those crazy hours and emails and meetings and trying to get things done, and you almost had to delegate stuff at that point. But luckily, as I said, good people around you, and things get done, and then you start to say, "Hey, this does work." Um, so, yeah, no, it was tough for me, but yeah, it's very important, and use it all the time now.
In terms of the products you create in PITH, what are the next innovations that you're seeing, especially in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you think that it's gonna be more less weight or probably easier to ship? Any of those things?
Great question. You know what? I think they're going to be carts and assemblies that will morph, and I don't mean physically just change, but I mean, okay, here's an engine line. Here's 6 drawers of cutout foams for certain parts. Well, now just I want 6 new foams because we're going to put a different engine line in, so they're different parts. So we've actually sort of worked on that concept of having a lot of our bigger equipment, the point of use stations and the assembly kit carts and stuff of that nature, to where we just switch out the foams that'll hold the parts. So now the customer's already spent the bulk of the money. We'll refoam it for them, but they've got carts that'll they'll last 30 years because we're making them out of extruded aluminum and heavy duty casters and very sturdy stuff. So yeah, I think a lot of customers saying, "Hey, I just need part of the solution going forward, not the whole solution."
And if an aerospace company is thinking about working with you, why should they choose you over your competitors?
We've got 32 years of experience doing this. We're one of the first that have done the assembly kit carts and the lean manufacturing products. I'll put it over the whole umbrella. Um, we have the knowledge. We have the blue chip customers that keep coming back. We make a prototype when it's a big project or a big cart. We make a prototype and we send it to them, and they play with it, and they try it, and we tweak it from there. We don't go right into production, so we give them exactly what they want, and we're good at what we do.
That's amazing. And for the aerospace industry as a whole, where do you see it going in the next 5, 10 years?
Another great question. It's just technology is pushing so far. I think you're going to get a lot more of the composites. Um, I think you're going to get into the electric world, like you said. I think a lot of the hydraulics and the other combustion engines and a lot of that stuff is going to start to dwindle. There's going to be better solutions. It's going to be lighter, stronger, lasts longer. So yeah, I think everything is going to. You're talking about some of these commercial vehicles going more than the speed of sound. So it's going to get interesting.
I've been hearing some people who really likes and hopes that the aerospace industry is going to the point that most people in the world are gonna be using flying cars. But I don't think they notice or they realize that flying cars exist. They're helicopters.
Well, these new air electric vehicles, these new drones that are taxis. I mean, there's at least a dozen companies producing them around the world today. So you got to figure out what are the logistics, what are the laws, what's the safety protocols. But I really, if you're talking 20 years, I don't think I don't think half the people are going to be driving on the highway. So
What's scary is now that we're running on just two direction, going front or side to side. If we add the direction of up and down, I think there's gonna be a lot more accidents there.
I mean, well, there's a lot more room up there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to predict how that's going to work, but we see the products being made, so something's going to happen.
And who has been the mentors or figures in your lifetime that had the most impact on your career?
Oh, another great question. Uh, a guy named Bill Gostick hired me at Pratt Whitney. One of the smartest people I knew. He ran the F-35 program at Pratt, the 135 program, the engine. Really good guy, and he, I just learned by how he conducted himself. Warren Bowley, another, he was a president at Pratt. Those guys were really sharp guys, really good at what they did. Uh, my mother, taught me the other side of things, how to deal with people, and just, a couple here and there. But those are three good ones.
And do you see yourself in the future possibly retiring?
Retiring is funny. So my best friend just retired. He worked at a software company and had a bunch of years, and he was going to do a couple more, and then there was a buyout, and he took it. And long story short is I see him and I'm saying every day, wow, that'd be awesome to retire, but I'm not real good at that. I'm not real good at not doing something. So I own part of PITH, so we'll scale this and we'll move it at some point. I'd like to do this again. I think I'm done.
Yeah,
So we'll see what
but
the next opportunity is and go from there. But I, I'm having fun. Uh, things are good. This is the first time I worked in Connecticut,
yeah,
and I drive to work in 8 years. So it's sort of nice to have a little bit of a commute as opposed to flying everywhere, which just tough on the body. But no, I don't think I'm done for a while. That's
you're gonna miss working.
that.
Yeah, it becomes after a while it becomes part of your soul and your body to the point that it hurts if you're not working.
No, I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
As long as I can play some golf, I'll keep working.
And I bet there's a lot of great golf spots there in Connecticut.
There is.
And how do you personally define success? What's your definition of it?
Oof. Everybody will start to say or stay away from money, and I will definitely stay away from that. I mean, success, you got to feel good about yourself. The wealth or the monetary part will follow. You do your job and you lead and you succeed, and you know what, you bring other people around you up and make them better, and make that company better, then everything will sort of follow that.
And I know you're probably aware of some of this. Where do you think AI will be heading?
AI is a very interesting topic that we could take hours on.
Yeah.
Always intrigues me, even in what I call a low tech business like mine. So I'm trying to figure out what I can do, what AI can do for me, I guess I should say. So I'm exploring some things, but you know, and it's really funny. If you saw movies 25 years ago, they predict some of these things, and it looks like sci-fi. Well, we're sort of there now. I mean, this AI, some of these AI programs and software is amazing, amazing. I have two boys that one just finished college and one's almost out, and they showed me some of these things, and I got to tell you, man, I'm just entranced. So I play with them every now and then. But yeah, I'm gonna see what I can do to bring that into this business too.
Yeah, and personally, I'm scared of it just because I've had some conversation, and one of the interesting things that I've had a conversation with a guy I drove me, a futurist. I didn't know those industries existed, but he told me that if AI is artificial intelligence, it's basically a direct artificial version of us. So if we're full of hatred, well, what's stopping them from hating us?
Yeah, it's and that was what the iRobot movie or whatever. But yeah, I'm with you. It's definitely scary. scary and intriguing and all
Yeah,
in one. And could it be used for bad? I'm sure it can, because there's a lot of bad people out there. I get 20 scam
yeah,
emails and calls a day. Unfortunately, they're probably going to use it too, which does scare me.
yeah.
But for good, I think there's that can it can do a lot of good stuff if it's used the right way.
And what's scary about this is if you look at it, most of the things that we as human innovated as, we first had to overcome that barrier of innovation, then we regulate it, we control it. Just like weapons, and then we have food. Now we're trying to make better living by optimizing the foods we eat. But there's a part where it's full of obesity. What if we go in a point that AI have so much control that it's gonna be impossible to optimize it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no learning curve, right? All of a sudden, there's an answer, and what if that answer is in the wrong direction? That's
Yeah.
what's scary.
And what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind your professional life?
Oof. You know what? Just and winner is cliche, and I don't mean it in that sense, but just succeed. Success. I want someone to say, "Hey, you know what? He did his job. Um, Not only did he help the companies, but he helped the people around him. So success is a good word."
Do you have any advice for anyone who might be thinking of entering your industry?
Sure. I mean, and if we're throwing me into the aerospace world, I would absolutely advise anyone to seek aerospace. As we said, it's big established companies. There's great training. They're at the leading edge of technologies, and I think today's world, my boys especially included, you're not going to have. When I was at Pratt Whitney, there was people there for 40 years. That's just never going to happen anymore. Nobody's going to be at a place for 40 years. It's not how the world is anymore. So those first 5 years are pretty important in someone's career. The training, the knowledge, the process management, process improvement, the procedures that you learn. I think aerospace would be a great way to start a career.
And since we're nearing the end of the podcast, what advice for life would you give to anyone who might be listening?
Keep learning. Don't be stagnant. Just learning is a beautiful thing, and it just keeps opening different doors. I mean, even if you like doing the same thing every day, there's and that's fine. A lot of people do that, but just keep learning, keep trying to get better, and the rest will take care of itself.
That's amazing. Is there anything any exciting news or anything that we can look forward into for PITH products?
No, we're excited to talk to a lot of new customers. With the new product, and some of our new process procedures, and we're looking at things a little differently. I think we can even give more solutions than we have in the last 32 years. So I'm excited about where we're going. I just hired 3 people in the last 4 weeks. Yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. So I'm excited to go see new people and new customers, and make new partners.
That's amazing. And where can people find you?
So PITH Products is in Ashford, Connecticut, right in the middle of the state, right outside of Stores where UConn is. But Tim Blaisdell is the CEO, but Tim B at pithproducts.com. Email me. Our website is up and running. We made that last year, right before I got here. www.pithproducts.com. And that'll be the easiest way. We're all over the internet, and we'd love to work with new folks and give new solutions.
It's amazing. And again, thank you for joining us on the New World podcast.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it.
That's all for today's episode of the New World podcast. We have explored some fascinating topics with our amazing guests, shedding light on the upcoming new world. If you enjoyed today's episode and today's discussion and want to stay updated the future episodes, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the podcast. And if you found value on what we have discussed, please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, or if you are interested in being a guest in the future, please feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn or email me at john.paul@aicinix.com and add New World Podcast, all capital, in the subject line so I can see it. I always love hearing from our listeners. And don't forget to check out our amazing guests. You can find more information about them via the contact details we provided earlier. Again, thank you for tuning in on the New World Podcast. I know your time is very important and I try to always make the next episode better than the last. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep innovating. This is John Paul Flores signing off from the New World Podcast.